This is Justin Lesko, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt and former pro MMA fighter.
And I'm Mike Callahan, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu brown belt and a law enforcement officer. Joining us on the show tonight, we have the owner of 609 Jiu-Jitsu in Egg Harbor, New Jersey.
He's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and he's going to come on and talk to us about his coaching philosophy and how he runs his school. And he's going to tell us about his technique breakdowns that he's recently been posting to Instagram.
Please welcome to the show, Steve McGee.
So basically the way this usually works is we just have a conversation and then I spend 2 days trying to make it make sense in some logical order.
Okay.
So
And it does. He's like this nerdy fucking tech guy that I became friends with. He just happens to know jiu-jitsu
cool.
too. So that's where
The opposite of me, I don't know shit about technology.
yeah, well, I don't know anything either. I'm just a talent on the show. So
well, thanks so much for coming on and hanging out with us for a little bit tonight.
Absolutely.
you're living the dream, man. Like, you're right by the beach. You got jiu-jitsu, right? Like, I mean, and I'm sure you got a ton of guys that drop in there all the time.
Yeah, we get summer guys all the time. I mean, even with all this pandemic stuff going on, I get emails and phone calls all the time. So does Jose. Like I said, we do privates. I was doing privates all summer long, but unfortunately this summer was busted, but normally, I mean, you've seen it, Micah, we have people coming in all the time, and people stay at Longport. I live outside of Ocean City now, here in Ocean View. Like, I'm from Wildwood originally, which is another new shore town. So I was exit 6. I'm at 14 miles of the Parkway, so I'm right outside Ocean City. I always wear my 609 t-shirts, and people are always asking,
You said you've been doing a lot of privates. Have you guys done any classes through Zoom or any of the virtual learning at all?
People did ask about them. Like for a while, not for a while. I did a couple of lessons online, like me and a buddy, or my friend Mike Bolino. I don't know if you know him or not. Owns a car dealership here in Pleasantville. It's like 5 miles from my school, And so he would come over as my Yuki, and we would do like some self-defense moves, things like that. And then with this COVID shit, you just saw people getting in trouble for being at their school. There was one guy out in California, his name is slipping, but he got, citations for being at his school, and it was supposed to be closed. So it got to the point, what do you do? You know what I mean? And
Yeah, it's problems you don't need.
Exactly. So we're very good on following the rules. You know what I mean? So after we scrub the school down, or whoever's there, we scrub the school down, mats, walls. I mean, it's normally no more than 2 or 3 people. When I do a private, I always have a Yuki with me.
Yeah.
So usually no more than 3 people at a time right now.
How far are you guys from that Utilis Gym and the one in Belmar or Belmar or however the hell there's 2 different Belmars,
Well,
right?
yes, it's called Belmar, but the Utilis Gym, the history of them is they started in Wildwood.
For people who aren't from
Yeah.
our area, who aren't aware of what's going on, they basically have openly defied the shutdown orders, right? We're talking about the same place that they're still showing up at their gym, and it's been a whole big
Yeah,
controversy.
I just saw something online. They're going to be at Republican headquarters now, or one of the.
I saw that as well, where they
Something like that.
they declared themselves like a campaign office or something to get around.
Yeah, that's what it was.
They're like a fitness gym. They're not a jiu-jitsu gym. Correct?
Yeah, they're not a jiu-jitsu gym. You guys do this street week thing,
Yes.
right? So you want to talk a little bit about that and just kind of get into that a little bit? I always thought that was a pretty cool philosophy that you guys had there.
Yeah, sure. So we do like a 4-week cycle at the gym. The first full week of every month is street week. Like I said, and then we have the passing week, the sweep week, the sub week. And it's really just the instructors, the discretion. Some people like certain guards, certain sweep, so you get a variety from the instructors. But street week is actually a Ricardo Miglioris idea. That's something they've been doing in Balance for years. I even talked to Phil about, hey, can I use the name street week? So when I do make posts for that, that's all Ricardo. That's all Ricky. So all we do that week is focus on Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, old school Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, self-defense. Do live drills with it. We're doing just blocking strikes, blocking kicks, to someone tackles you, to you name it, we do it. And then at the end of every session, we still have our open mat, so you can get your rolling time. So you always have an open mat at the end of classes. So you can always do that. But it's the most practical part of jiu-jitsu, man. I mean, when I first looked at jiu-jitsu, I didn't know what it was. And just like everybody else, I watched UFC 1 with Royce Gracie. Didn't know where Brazil was, didn't know what Brazilian jiu-jitsu was, didn't know what jiu-jitsu was. Same story everybody else has. And but you could tell it was practical. You know what I mean? Like I'm still a Steve Maxwell. I was actually watching a podcast, an old Joe Rogan podcast before I got on you guys about Steve Maxwell. That's jiu-jitsu to me, man. I never had that goal of being a world champion. And I competed a couple of times. You know what I mean? I never wanted to be the Abu Dhabi champion. Never wanted to be an MMA fighter. It's just I've been in martial arts since I was 14.
Where did you start training jiu-jitsu at? Was it under Rich in Egg Harbor, or?
No, I started training jiu-jitsu in Nashville, Tennessee. I lived in Tennessee for 5 years.
Okay.
So I was in the U.S. Air Force, stationed at Fort Campbell, Kentucky, which is an Army post. So most people don't realize our Air Force guys are there. And this guy, Steve Mills, I met, who I'm still very good friends with. He's a black belt in jiu-jitsu now too. He lives in Orlando now. He got me into jiu-jitsu. We just became friends at our unit. I mean, did you ever hear of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu? I'm like, UFC, Royce, and that's all I knew about it. And he's like, I found this place in Nashville. I lived like 40 minutes from Nashville, a town called Clarksville, Tennessee. And after the first lesson, I started going 3 days a week. And that was probably in 2000, 2001, something like that. I started training. And that's how I found Jiu-Jitsu. My first instructor was a guy named Eric Silver. He was a purple belt. When I was a beginner, he's like a third or fourth degree black belt now under Hickson. Like I talk to him like once a year or something like that. He's still in Nashville. He owns a school now called Zanshin Dojo. Very, very traditional. All white E's. It's Hickson 101. That's it. Like there's no deviation at all. But Nashville MMA is the school I was at before I came back to Jersey, and a guy named Ed Clay used to own Nashville MMA. I don't believe Ed does jiu-jitsu anymore, but he got his black belt under Wood Urban. So I went to the Wood Urban team when I was in Nashville. But that's how I started. And so I trained there for about 4 or 5 years, got my blue belt. I trained with a lot of people because Luis Baleares used to be the old head instructor at Nashville MMA before Luis left and they took over, got affiliated with Lloyd. So I got my blue belt from Luis Baleares. I got my purple belt from Rich Comar after I moved back to Jersey. I was working out of Camden for about 2 years, year and a half, 2 years. So I was training at Balance Center City. And I got my blue belt. And then I got all my black belts. I'm second degree now under Rich, but I got all my black belts from Rich Comar.
Yeah, and Rich, nothing but positive things to say about him too. I've taken a couple classes under him.
And that's what I like. I like after 20 years of jiu-jitsu, my go-to sweep still a scissor sweep. I'm still doing the cross collar choke, and I love the Kimura. That's all I do. You train with me, and I'm going for a Kimura at some point.
That's good to know, because when we come down and visit again, I'll make sure I'm keeping my elbows nice and tight.
You can't avoid it.
That's all I do. That's really all I do. And that's scissor sweep. It's my go-to.
I love me a good scissor sweep. So
after 20 years, man, my go-to. And you just keep refining things. I'm actually starting to write a little blog now. I think, Mike, you saw it. I have it on Instagram and on Facebook, stuff like that. And I just try to break it down in small micro movements, you know what I mean? And I learned something. Gawler Academy that you have online. And so has it. I downloaded Hickson and I learned something about a cross collar choke, 20 years later. So I tweaked my cross collar choke and the way I pull the head now in triangle choke. And I got short stubby legs. I'm only 5'9", so I'm not a big triangle guy, but when I start pulling that head down at 45 into my thigh, everyone's starting to tap. You know what I mean? 20 years later. That's the most advanced move I knew. In Nashville was a triangle. I did 2 sweeps, the bum sweep and the scissor sweep for like 2 years.
If it works, that's all you need. That's all you need.
So
it works.
That's all I know. And like I said, it's my go-to, man.
So you just talked about it, but it was one of the reasons that I reached out to you, and if anybody who's listening has a chance to check out your Instagram page, we'll tell them what it is at the end of the show. But after I saw like the first couple of these the breakdowns, positional breakdowns that you were doing, I was like, I messaged Justin, and I told him, I was like, we got to get this guy on to talk about these things, and so
you do very in depth. It's very in depth breakdowns on techniques and on like not just the technique, but sort of the mindset in that position.
Mm-hmm.
When you're making those posts, is that sort of like you're just like flowing off the top of your head how you feel about those spots, or does that tie into what you might be teaching for that week? Like, what's the mentality behind that?
No, honestly, I have my good friend. He's my go-to student, one of my purple belts, Rob Bloom. He actually has a one now called Cobra Strike, BJJ, Cobra Strike Jiu Jitsu. I'll hit it for you for the end. And then, yeah, just start writing shit. It's like you've been doing it long enough. And to be honest with you, I try to do one every day. Sometimes works out every other day, but it takes me like 5 minutes. It's like while I'm drinking coffee or getting kids ready in the morning. It doesn't really, I didn't think they sounded that good, to be honest with you, because I didn't want to be too in depth because the beginners looking at it, what the fuck are they talking about? And I didn't want to sound too juvenile, because then you have other people like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, So I'll have my wife read it, but she trains once in a while, and then I'll let Justin Robbie read it. He's a purple belt. That sounds good. He goes, but you're not cursing enough. He goes, you curse a lot, so put a couple fucks in there and sound like this. I want to hear you. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll try. But I'm always I try to be PC too. You know what I mean? So. But sometimes I can't do both. You know what I mean?
I do the same thing when I'm going to post like a technique breakdown for us on like our Patreon account. I'll send the video to my brother Jeff, who is also, he's technically a white belt. I don't think he's trained in like 4 or 5 years, but I'll say, hey, watch this as like a civilian and let me know if it makes sense to you before I post it, because it's easy when you know the technique and you're the one teaching it. Like to translate that to a mass audience can be tough sometimes.
Yeah. So, and this goes with what we're talking about. Like every Tuesday and Thursday, I teach beginners. You know what I mean? Like even in Tuesday and Thursday go together. So either the same techniques or I piggyback off those techniques. So Tuesday runs into Thursday, and that's all you're doing. And even the live training at the end on Tuesday and Thursday, it's something to do with passing or sweeping. When you talk about like jiu-jitsu as a sport, 80% of the match is about passing or sweeping, right? And so we're doing some type of passing or sweep drill live every Tuesday and Thursday, and that's it. If we have time to open that later on, we can do your rounds or whatever. But it's always live training. I'm big in positional sparring too. Positional sparring, I think, is the most important. Like I think that starting on your niche is bullshit. Like it's just not a real fucking position. Who the fuck does that? I understand the safety aspect. Not every school likes to do stand up. I don't care if you do stand up in my school. Hey, Steve, can we start standing up? Absolutely. Go to the back, or, not put the beginners up in the front, or I'm not letting them do it yet. But let's face it, there's no beginners these days, man. You learn a lot from YouTube. Even my posts, I always say, like, hey, check Gordon Ryan out for this position. Check out Marcelo Garcia. You Google them. You find them on YouTube, so you can learn a little bit. It might not be technically precise, but you learn. And there's a lot of fucking wrestlers these days, man.
Fucking wrestlers.
It seems like 70% of our beginners all have some type of wrestling experience.
Yeah.
So.
And that's like a blue belt. That's like a blue belt. If you get a good wrestler, it's like dealing with a fucking blue belt. They're not,
They're not true white belts, man.
They're not.
You know what I mean? Like, depending on their level, like you said, their positioning is like blue and purple level on top. Especially their side control. They might not know what a mount is yet, but their side control is devilish. And then Monday, Wednesday, I do more advanced, but it's still advanced basics. You know what I mean? I still just branch off of that, and I teach a lot of theory. You know what I mean? Like every sweep, you block your training partner's post, you get his momentum moving, you do a fulcrum. And I didn't create any of this. That's something I read from Kit Dale. You know what I mean? Like I didn't invent any of this. I just take certain teaching styles and certain movements I like, and like, okay, I can make that work. I can make that work. But I think the hardest thing, other than Friday, I just close out with takedowns. We always do takedown fit-ins. I alternate wrestling and judo on Fridays, and then we just kill each other. You know what I mean? That's our hard train day. It's Friday. Just positional sparring and rolling. That's it. Takedowns for like a half hour, positional, open mat, and I don't teach anything else.
we've and Justin can attest to this. We've had this debate before, like that the positional sparring aspect of something of jiu-jitsu is like something that isn't embraced around fully around the jiu-jitsu community, right? And I think it's people get into the lull of like we're gonna drill this 3 times and then we're just gonna start from our knees and then that's it, Whereas putting these guys into a certain position and, maybe letting them go at 75-80% and then, kind of turning up the intensity from there is the way that it needs to be. You're not going to get better just from starting from your fucking knees. I mean, you are, but there's limitations.
I don't let my students start from their knees.
Yeah.
You got to start from a position.
Yep.
I don't, sometimes I'll say, okay, lower ranking guy picks a position. I'll say, hey, higher ranking guy, pick a bad position. You hit me and mount it, start model mount. And that's what Ed Clay did for me when I was in Nashville. I used to panic, like fucking panic attacks when someone was mounting me. I would panic. I didn't know what I was doing yet. No. Even as a blue belt, I would panic because you're starting every fucking match being mounted. Okay, guess what? I don't give a fuck who mounts me now.
Well, when I was a white belt, I hated half guard. I had such a terrible half guard. I was so uncomfortable there. So I forced myself to go to half guard every roll, and it became one of my most favorite positions now. I love being in bottom half guard, and I think that's, like Mike said, I think that's something that people shy away from. It's like if you go to the gym and you're bad at squatting, well, you just don't squat. Well, you're not getting stronger there. It's the same thing with jiu-jitsu. You should be, like you said, in spots that you're bad at to not be bad at them anymore.
Yeah. Well, I gotta tweak that a little bit. I don't care how much better you get at that position if you hate it. I just want you to be comfortable in that position.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Because, I like to quote people and give references to people if they want to look it up or if you guys want to look books and all that stuff. And it was Gary Vee or Tim Ferriss. They were talking about working on your weaknesses. You know what I mean? He was, well, why? It's a waste of time. Like, think about it. If you work on your weakness, what are you going to get 5 or 10% better? That's it. But if you practice your strengths all the time, they're just going to get better. They're already strong anyway. You know what I mean? I don't believe in that old school. Like, I was a karate guy initially. Like when I was 14, I started karate. You got to get going to your both sides. Well, why? Mike Tyson didn't fight.
Right.
He fought right-handed. Do one side. Even Hoyler said it. You go to your strong side. When the fuck are you going to go to your weak side? 1 in a million chance. Do it once in a while, but especially beginners. Or should I do it on both sides? I'm like, no, you can't even do it on your strong side. So what the fuck are you practicing on your weak side? Right?
Yeah.
My whole life I'm right-handed. I'm not going to joke that or pretend that I'm left-handed now. Now there's that time where you fight that left-hander, you may have to go to the left. It's funny. I naturally wrestle left-handed anyway, so it's probably easier for me to say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just how I grew up wrestling. I was a high school wrestler, but I didn't get very far, but I wrestled left-handed for some fucking reason.
Like when I drill a move, I tend to drill 90% of the time on one side, and if I end up on the other side, I'll figure something else out to do from there, but I'd rather get considerably better by drilling on one side than splitting half, 50% of the reps drilling on the other side.
Marcelo Garcia, he said he does standing passes on one side and only passes on the other.
Figure it out.
So he don't want to waste his time. I'm gonna let this walk in. You don't want to waste his time on both passes on both sides. If I'm standing to the left, I'm going to the right, or whatever it is, whatever he said, but it makes sense to me. Eddie Bravo, if you ever saw the documentary, The Twister, that he had, it was right after he beat Wheeler, or something like that. He came out with something. He goes, yeah, I used to start with this twister, but I couldn't do it on this side. So I had to get around to the guy's other side.
Yeah,
Makes sense to me.
I'm 100% with you on it. 100%.
See, what I like to do I kind of stole this from Craig Jones a little bit, but
because you're a thief.
I am. I'm thieving all the good stuff.
100%.
Let's tell tell Steve how much you hate Craig Jones and how much you were talking shit when Mason Fowler was on the show.
That's a bold-faced lie.
Yeah. Craig, it's not.
It is. It's a bold-faced lie. So what I like to do is when everyone's drilling, I like to observe which side everyone considers the better side for a specific technique. And then I try to force people in the match. So, like, if everyone plays half guard with their right hip on the mat, I try to pass so that they'll end up in half guard on their quote unquote wrong side because I feel like I have a bit of an advantage. And that's just because I don't know.
A prick. But
Oh,
what I
gosh, you're
thought,
trying.
the way that the way that I thought you were going with that is, I thought you were going to say, when people are drilling, I just observe. Like, I thought that you're just going to end it there. Like, when people drill, I just watch. I don't
I
really
just watch
drill or
them.
do anything. Well, I'm training at BJJ United now.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
So I'm training up there, and like I walk in the first day, and I'm like talking to the guy about like I'm signing up, and I look over and like I see him like they're not doing warm ups. I'm like, I don't care how much you guys charge, I'm in. You can charge me $200. No warm ups. That's the cat. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
But
What are your opinions on warm-ups? So I know
so
that.
we were talking. We actually talked about it last time too. It's just we like I like dynamic warm ups. You know what I mean? Like,
Yes,
so
100%.
we've been kind of exposed to both ends of it. I'm not a big fan of static stretching pre workout. Justin actually was reading an article on one of the episodes about how that actually they're starting to say that might increase your chances of getting hurt prior to exercise. So any dynamic warm ups or and even just, starting with like a light flow roll or kind of easing into things that way, I'm good with, you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I like to
100%.
move. I need to be moving and sweating before I start really training hard. Even drilling, like I need to have a bit of
Yeah,
a sweat going because I don't want to be going through motions and technique when I'm not, like, my body's not primed to be the way it's going to be when I'm actually doing these techniques. So I like a dynamic warm up, like Mike said. I like sport specific. I like shrimping. I like pulling butterfly guard, all that stuff. I would prefer to be able to do, like, my ideal class would be like, hey everyone, 15 minutes for warm ups. Go warm up however you want. Everybody come back because I'm just selfish and I want to warm up my own way. But I'm in for the warm up. I'm in for the warm up.
so my beginner class is on Tuesday, Thursday. It's very specific. You do the main three: stand up and base, shrimp, pump and roll, right? And practice bridging. Either side. If you're a wicked beginner, like first day, I'll get one of my little purple belts
Oh,
into the corner.
sounds like a great
You get a
class.
freebie day. Like, you don't got to work for it. You're teaching a new guy for 10 minutes. So we'll do that. It's not bad, right? So we'll do that. And, but a lot of times I try to warm up what we're doing that day. It's something like mouth specific. You know what I mean? So you might do a lot more pumping and rolling, or something like that. But I'm a huge advocate. If I had to rank them, stand up and base, shrimp, bridge, network, you know. But then me and my buddy Robbie, who I was telling about the purple belt,
Yeah.
everything's a shrimp. If you think about standing up in base, you're just shrimping on a different plane. But yeah, pretty fucking much. It all goes full circle. It's all the same. And then my Monday, Wednesday class, a lot of times it's a flow. Through, 2, 3, 4 rounds to warm up. Or we start, and by practicing the moves, that's your warm up. It's not, and Como was that way.
Right. Yeah.
He didn't you know what I mean? And we never warmed up with class with him. It was, you want to warm up, you come, 10, 15 minutes before class. You know what I mean? With mobility, he's an old Steve Maxwell guy too. You do your own joint mobility, that kind of stuff. He's getting trained jiu-jitsu. Like when I was at balance, we didn't do any warm-ups. I'm assuming the beginners did, but when I got to balance, I was already a purple belt up in Center City. We just started class. I took Ricardo's noon class, 12 o'clock. Class started. Here's the first move, guys. Let's go. No bowing in, no line, but you just started. And that's what I like about jiu-jitsu. I don't like the bowing in anymore and all that. Your promotions, you want to do that shit. That's cool.
I like a good cool down as well. I don't like to just like, okay, we're done rolling. Okay, take my gi off, get in the car and drive home. Like I like to move a little bit and like ease my body back into being stationary for a bit.
Yeah, I don't like that. I like to wrap my gi up in a pillow and put it under my head and then crawl in a corner and die for about 10 minutes and then crawl to my bag and get my drink and then leave. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's just a lot of it, you just go by what the modality of the school is, you follow whoever's teaching, you know what I mean? put up with that shit, and
Yeah.
What works for you. Like Pavel Sassoline, he hates warm-ups. He starts lifting weights. You know what I mean? He's never warmed up. He just starts. Steve Maxwell, like you only work out twice a week, but you do joint mobility, you do all that shit every day. It's now I'm 42. I'm getting closer to 43 now, so I'm not in the shape that I used to be in. And I see those wrestlers come in, so it's all defensive. I make sure my framing's perfect, and hope they make a mistake, and that's when I attack. You know what I mean? Probably don't move, but every like 4 or 6 seconds before I move. I'm not keeping up with you 23-year-old kids, and I have guys and I look like good gods. You know what I mean? Like, these guys, Jesus Christ, you know what I mean? It's like, I have 6 kids. I have 3 kids, 3 step-kids. I work full-time job. I'm like, I can train twice this week because now after each class I got to get to work, or I gotta, get the other kid to the doctor's appointment. That's my life now. You know what I mean?
It's not always possible to train like a professional athlete and do a 20-minute warm-up, 20-minute cool down, and an ice bath every day, but
sounds phenomenal.
I haven't done that since I lived with my parents, like before my military days. So that stopped for me when I was 20. And I went in the military when I was 20. That's when all that shit stopped. You know what I mean? Once in the military, you have to be here at a certain time, do what we tell you, and that's it. You know what I mean? They don't care if you want to be an MMA fighter or a pro boxer, same thing. Do what they tell you. I did that for 6 years.
What's the plan moving forward? Like, have they given you guys any type of like heads up as to when you might be allowed to open up?
I have no fucking clue. I have no idea. It's right before the restaurants opened up, they shut that down here. Right before they were going to have indoor seating. But now you can do outdoor seating now. I have no idea. All I know is that we can do private lessons, right? Appointment only. You can do, I think, and say it's so gray. I don't know how the fucking order reads. I know how it reads. I don't know how you're supposed to understand it. 25% capacity, and how I read it is outside.
Pop up in that garage door, man.
You know what, man? If I'm 100% correct and I wasn't going to get popped with an inspection or something, I'd probably do it. But until we get the green light, man, it's not.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
It's gonna hurt you more if you don't follow the rules and something happens. Then they come down there. It's like it sucks either way. And either way, it's good.
I think JT Torres shut down again because someone.
Yeah, they shut him down.
Yeah, he thought he was following
correctly,
and you saw him doing all the cleaning. So I don't know. I'll just wait till the green light comes on.
One of the things I noticed a lot about your posts when you're posting about technique and positions and stuff is you do, and you've mentioned it tonight, you tell people to look up on YouTube and seek out information. I think that's kind of an unusual thing in that a lot of instructors don't do that, but I think it's a very obviously good thing to do. But what's your opinion about instructors who don't want white belts to watch YouTube or don't want blue belts to look out at new techniques that they're not learning at your school?
How the fuck can you stop it? Everyone has an iPhone, you know what I mean, an Android. Everyone has, we're on a fucking computer right now, you know what I mean? You tell them to look up guys that you look up to. You know what I mean? I don't believe white belts shouldn't leg lock either. You know what I mean? Like if you're right off the street, okay, don't do it yet. You know what I mean? But is a knee bar any worse than an unlock? I don't think it is.
A man after my own heart. We just talked about this last episode.
Oh my god!
You teach them right. You teach them right. You teach them right. I mean, they're going to respect it, right? And Eddie Bravo says jiu-jitsu is a douchebag filter. You know what I mean?
Yep.
That shit just, I've never had to say, get rid of this guy. I never been an asshole in jiu-jitsu, to be honest with you. But the people that can't hack it tend to leave. You know what I mean? And I've never had a quote-unquote bully at the school. I can honestly say that. But that shit just works itself out.
I agree.
You don't have to, there's no more dojo storming and, when's the last time there was someone challenging a jiu-jitsu school with their martial arts style? You know what I mean? This doesn't happen anymore. But yeah, I mean, love him or hate him, Gordon Ryan's the best right now. He truly fucking is. You can't deny it. There's a definitive difference of D and no D now. Yeah, I think the last ADCC showed that. And I think he gets a lot of slack that he doesn't deserve. Oh, he didn't winning and
Yeah.
beat, fuck you. You know what I mean? Like still winning, beating everybody. You know what I mean? He's the fucking best. Like, the best competitor out there. Like I truly believe that. I had to break it down. Indeed, Hodger Gracie. You can't go wrong looking up Hodger Gracie, right? Like cross collar and armbar, right? That's all he did.
People still can't stop it.
Division,
People still can't stop it.
Exactly. You know what he's doing, right? And my favorite Marcelo, the nicest guy in jiu-jitsu, right? Like, why would you not want your students to look him up,
I always love them. It's a meme of it's a giant bodybuilder and it's Marcelo next to each other, and it's like the giant bodybuilder is what the untrained person is afraid of, and the trained person is afraid of Marcelo because he's this small little meek looking guy who could kill you.
When you had these instructors that are telling referring to these guys as YouTube guys, or they don't want to learn on YouTube, it's almost like they're stopping the advancement of the sport. Like, why wouldn't you want these guys to evolve through? Not saying that you want somebody learning something on YouTube and then coming in and doing it 1,000%, 1,000 miles per hour if they don't know what the fuck they're doing, but yeah. But at the same time, like if the resources are out there, why wouldn't you want them taking advantage of it? So,
and I think you get into the how I said how your mentality of the school is. Like, I've never taught a barrel ball in my life. I mean, have I tried it a couple of times? Yeah, I don't know what it is. Yeah, but my big ass ever do it? Probably not. Like, I don't think I've ever even tried it in a roll before. I don't teach it.
Right.
Learn how to sweep and pass. You know what I mean? Learn the principle. I mean, I don't care what guard you're in, what pass you do, what sweep you do. There's principles that you have to learn. You get those principles down, you're going to make up your own shit. Luis, he taught us sweep. Hey, Luis, what's that called? He goes, I don't know, man. It's a sweep. I don't fucking know. That's all he would say. There was no fucking names or anything. And we had scissors, we had arm bar, we had triangle, that kind of shit. But it's a fucking choke, man. I don't know. That's what he would say. In plain accent, I don't fucking know. Like I think it was Eddie Bravo. Americans like names for like a label. I don't fucking know. I mean,
right.
Everything's got a name. Every transition's got a name. I couldn't remember that shit. That's why I never do that. They say you got to memorize all the Japanese shit. Get the fuck out of here. Show me how to throw. You know what I mean? Like, that's all I need to do. You know what I mean? There's no belts in wrestling, right? But watch YouTube, find the guys you like. If you know body types now. I have like Rob, like he can go in for it and put his feet back and his knees back to the mat and do the barrel and bowl. You want to do it, have fun, man. It's cool. Do it while you're training when you're not really going to get hurt. But if you try to barrel and bowl somebody going vertical, fucking head punch them.
This is Kurt Osiander.
Yeah, you and Kurt Osiander would be good friends.
Kurt Osiander's smiling. He said the same fucking thing. He said the same exact thing.
Yeah,
that's great.
On. You got a full guard in the street. It happen.
Yeah.
Now,
and if you're getting in fights at 40 years old in the street, you're a jerk off anyway.
Yeah, you deserve what's coming to you at that point.
Exactly. You should know where you're at, who you're hanging out with by that point. Now that we all haven't made mistakes, right? But you know who you're around, So Kurt's awesome too.
Do you find that with so much out there, do you feel a pressure to watch jiu-jitsu all the time on YouTube? Because I feel like I have to watch as much as I can to keep up with everything that's happening all the time.
No, I really don't. Like I said, I watch who I like, and if you were ever, what's that book that Ilya wrote, right? He only wrote one book on jiu-jitsu. There's a lifetime of work in there, man. You know what I mean? And it's all the basic techniques of greasy jiu-jitsu. It will take a lifetime to master, So, I mean, you taught the basics. They've been teaching the basics for 2,000 years, right? Somewhere around there, 1,000 years, 2,000 years, wherever the hell the whole jiu-jitsu is, I'm not talking about Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I'm talking about Japan, a lot of it's similar, you know what I mean? It's, the Brazilians and everything, you know what I mean? Like, judo has to guard, you know what I mean? Like, so, but nah, I mean, I think you have to do that if you're competition oriented. Like Roger says, he doesn't practice the Baramola, but he knows what it is. He's tried and he's seen it. He gets people to do it on him, but he doesn't practice it, and I'm not sure it is. I've never trained with the fucking guy. but you got to know what it is. You got to know what the setups are like. I think that's important. It's like anything you watch footage, right? You know, I said it to a couple of guys today. Like boxing has 4 punches, right? Why is there so many different levels of boxing? It's just basic punches in boxing, right? Some are Ali's, some are Tyson's, some are Mayweather's, right? They have their own style. Four fucking techniques, right? It's how you put them together, and your footwork and your head movement, and you put it all together. You know, 3 or 4 different fighters I just named, you know. So same thing with jiu-jitsu.
Mike and I were talking, once all the pandemic and all this nonsense is done, we're going to do the That Jiu-Jitsu podcast world tour. So we're kind of hoping you could be the first stop on our take over the world.
Oh, fuck yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, man. Come on down. I got a big house. You can stay here.
Steve, thanks so much for coming on and talking with us. I dig your perspective on a lot of stuff, and it's always good to hear how other people approach teaching and their schools and everything. So we appreciate you coming on and hanging out.
Absolutely. We'll do it again soon.
Yeah, dude, we'll catch up with you soon. We'll be down there.
Yeah, soon.
When you guys open back
Yeah,
up.
soon as this bullshit's over, I'll shoot you a text.
Absolutely. And no Kimuras for me, but you can Kimura Mike all
Get the
day.
fuck out of here.
I'm going to leg lock Mike. I'm going to Kimura you.
All right, you know what? That's fair. As long as Mike gets leg locked in this scenario, I'm okay with it.
I only know one, dude, so.
We'll talk when Mike jumps off.
All right.
Thanks,
All right, Steve. Take care, man.
Have a good
All
one.
right, guys. Good night.
Thanks so much to Steve for coming on and hanging out with us. If you want to learn more about Steve's school, you can check them out at 609jiu-jitsu.com, or you can find them on Instagram at 609_jiu-jitsu and fitness. Jiu-jitsu and fitness is all one word. You can also follow Steve directly at Real Steve McGee. And you can also follow Steve's partner he talked about on the show, who helps him with the blog. You can find that at Cobra Strike JJ.
Don't forget that you can find the video version of all of our episodes on YouTube. You just have to search for That Jiu-Jitsu Podcast. If you want to follow the podcast on Instagram, you can find it at that_jiu-jitsu_podcast. And if you want to follow me directly, you can follow me at m_Callahan106.
You can find me at Justin Lesko on Instagram. Don't forget, we still have the deal with Patreon right now, where you can get a free t-shirt when you sign up to follow us on Patreon at patreon.com/thatjujitsupodcast. This week, I just posted our bloopers for August and a brand new technique breakdown. So check those out. Patreon.com/thatjujitsupodcast. Say you love leg locks. Thanks for hanging out with us, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.